Earlier today, I was going through some of my earlier writing. I came across a piece I wrote several years ago called The Day Civilization Ended, I believe. It was kind of a goofy, satirical piece. I was equating the end of civilization to the fact that the United States Supreme Court had ruled that the tomato was a vegetable, in spite of the fact that a tomato is clearly and scientifically a fruit. Now, why did I make this equation? Because I really didn't like the idea that an administrative or a judicial body could rule against established science. Now, the justification for it had something to do with federal funding for agriculture and the fact that tomato production, well, vegetable production is dealt with differently from fruit production, and there was a reasoning behind it. But still, the underlying fact remains. They ruled that a fruit was a vegetable, and it's not. Now, that topic has really been forefront in my mind lately when I think about science deniers and science denial with some of what's going on in the world today. It's easy to look at the United States as a glaring example under the Trump administration and see things like a person who has an outstanding lawsuit against the Environmental Protection Agency being put in charge of it, seeing climate change deniers being given important posts, seeing a Secretary of Education who's never set foot in a public school, seeing people who do not believe in evolution being given administrative posts, seeing a commission or some kind of administrative body created to investigate the link between autism and vaccines. It's really frightening. First of all, let me deal with the link between autism and vaccines. There isn't one. The whole idea, the whole premise is based on an outright lie. A corrupt doctor took money to publish a false study saying that there was a link between vaccines and autism. There isn't. The two things have nothing to do with each other. Vaccines are essential. They're important. We need them. They eliminate diseases. It really pisses me off to see cases where children are dying because their parents don't believe in vaccines. Okay, enough on that rant. I want to get back to my main point, and my main point is that science denial is dangerous. It's one thing if Cousin Jimmy doesn't believe in climate change. It's kind of annoying in conversations. It's dangerous if Cousin Jimmy becomes a member of the Senate or Congress in the States or Canadian Parliament, if he becomes a cabinet minister in charge of environmental policy. Then we all suffer. It's dangerous. It's frightening. There's a couple of different levels, and they annoy me to different degrees. One issue is that sometimes people don't believe in science or disagree with science because they simply don't understand the science or they don't understand scientific principles. And that's something that hopefully could be corrected with education. But it has become fashionable for some reason to argue against established science. There's a resurgence of the move to believe in a flat earth. It's ridiculous. We've known, not only have we sent astronauts off the planet regularly for the last over 40 years, not only do we have satellites in orbit around a planet, not only do we have seasons, not only do we have sunrise and sunset, we have known that the Earth is round for literally thousands of years. There used to be a thing back when I was a kid, people used to say, oh, Columbus discovered that the Earth was round. Well, no, Columbus did not discover that the Earth was round. The ancient Greeks not only figured out that the Earth was round, they actually calculated how big around it is mathematically. So it's foolishness to believe in a flat Earth, but it's become fashionable. These things really scare me because misinformation is so easy to spread through Facebook, through Twitter, through all of the current social media, through blogs like mine, or some that are a lot more popular than mine. There's some terrible information out there. Part of the misunderstanding comes from things like people believing the word theory has the meaning that it has in everyday use, where it's an idea that hasn't been proven yet. Well, in science, that's not a theory, that's a hypothesis. A theory is a body of evidence and information that provides an explanation. You don't prove a theory and make it a law. A law is a simple statement. The theory is the explanation. Force equals mass times acceleration is a law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction is a law. The theory is what provides the information and the evidence and the explanation that explains why it's a law. The theory of evolution, the theory of climate change, the theory of relativity, gravitational theory, atomic theory. These are not things that we have not proven. They're not random ideas. They are proven scientific fact. Will we learn more about them? Yes, absolutely, because science doesn't stagnate. One of the differences between a scientist and somebody who's simply holding on to an opinion is that scientists will change their ideas based on new evidence. That's the hallmark of a responsible critic. I don't know why it's become fashionable to deny science. I don't know if it's trendy, if people think that it's funny in some way. But there really are problems with it. Like I say, some people believe that vaccines are harmful and they're letting their children die instead of getting them proper medical treatment. We are at risk of doing serious damage to the environment because what leads me to my second thing that annoys me even more than simply misunderstanding, political agendas are involved in misleading and wrong science. Do we know humans have caused climate change? Yes. Is there evidence for it? Yes. Is there scientific consensus? Yes. Is it still controversial? No, not in the scientific world. It's not. It's controversial in mainstream media because there are corporations and politicians who've made it a political issue to argue with climate change. It's not controversial. It's about as controversial as gravity. We know it's real. But not everybody knows it's real because this artificial controversy still exists. What's the difference between, opinion and fact? Opinion is something that is not verifiable. If I say I like my purple shirt better than my red shirt, that's an opinion. There's no wrong answer. I'm entitled to that opinion. At what point are you no longer entitled to an opinion? At what point does your opinion contradict fact in a way that it's demonstrably wrong? There's an interesting guy in the States by the name of Ken Ham. He's a young Earth creationist. He believes the Earth is only about 6,000 years old. So right off the bat, he's demonstrably wrong. He denies climate change, yet he believes that 40 days of rain flooded the entire Earth, and he created a tourist attraction called Ark Encounter, where he built a replica of Noah's Ark. I'm not going to get into religion in this particular rant, although I probably will in a future rant. If you want to be religious, follow a particular faith, that is your right, at least in Canada and in many countries in the world. And it should be your right. I'm fine with that. But what I'm not fine with is government money was poured into building this attraction. An attraction that features things such as humans living alongside dinosaurs. Demonstrably inaccurate, incorrect information. That's not an opinion. It's either a misconception or an outright lie. If it can be proven wrong, are you still entitled to that opinion? I like summer better than winter. That's my opinion. Okay? You can argue with it. We can disagree. We can have an intelligent conversation without one of us ever being right and the other being wrong. If you say evolution has never happened, that's been proven wrong. Sorry. Are you still entitled to that as an opinion? I don't believe it even qualifies as an opinion. Okay, so science deniers are scary. That's kind of my main point. I really don't like the idea that there are people in important government positions who either do not understand science or do not care. That scares me even more. It means that they have a personal or political agenda for their own gain that involves misleading the public. And like I said earlier, it's easy to point at the United States and the Trump administration because they are doing things at a breakneck speed that fly in the face of common sense, common decency, and common knowledge. But we're not safe from it. It happens in other countries too, and it's happening in Canada. There are individual people who are very vocal, there are politicians who are very vocal, and there are people who are just utterly denying the reality of things like climate change. And we could be in big trouble if we allow this to continue. At some point, we have to believe the people who actually know what they're talking about. Does that mean better education for the public? Absolutely. There's definitely a gap. If we have people that think the world was discovered to be round 500 years ago, if we have people that think humans coexisted with dinosaurs, then yeah, there's an issue where we need to improve education. I'd really love to do something about the fact that it's trendy to hold these beliefs, the whole flat earth theory. See, I misused the word theory. That's a common everyday use. The whole flat earth idea or hypothesis, which has demonstrably been proven wrong. But it really, really is dangerous when our politicians get into this kind of thing. We can control that by voting, but only if enough people are able to stand up and say, that's not true, and I'm not going to put up with it. Okay, this was kind of a long video, but this is an issue that is very important to me as a person who spent his life involved in science, and really I can't express strongly enough that denying climate change, denying evolution, denying the importance of vaccines, denying all of these things is not just a harmless choice of opinion. It's something that leads to real world consequences.